America lives on borrowed money. That's why the terms debt and deficit get thrown around so much.
Our deficit?
Debt problem.
Now you're
To
mixing
$10
up the
trillion.
deficit with the debt.
$19 trillion?
Does anybody even know what a trillion means, right?
Good question. What does it all mean?
You know what it means? It means a lot. That's what it means.
Right. Well, let's first start with our definitions. In a given year, a country will raise money through taxes and spend money on everything that a government spends money on. If it spends more than it takes in, the difference is called a deficit, and the government has to borrow money to pay for it. Now, this leads us to debt, and not just any debt, but the debt. The debt is the total sum a government owes. In other words, a deficit is your dirty dish from last night. The debt is your sink. People love to talk about how huge and how unprecedented the debt is.
The biggest threat to America's future is debt that we're piling on.
The transcendent issue of our era.
President Obama is on course to add more debt than all previous presidents combined.
Looking at a chart, we see the debt in 1950 was around $257 billion, compared to now, which is around $19 trillion. Whoa, that's a lot. But comparing the debt then to comparing the debt now is a bit like comparing apples to oranges. It's not even that close. It's more like apples to orange juice. That's because when you talk about the debt and the deficit, you need context. And the first thing to keep in mind, inflation. Talk to anybody with gray hair. Money ain't what it used to be. So let's factor in inflation. And keep in mind, we're talking about the debt here. The same context applies to deficits. With inflation, that $257 billion debt in 1950 is around $2.5 trillion. That's still a fraction of our current debt, $19 trillion. But we're getting closer. Now it's more like apples and oranges. They're both whole fruit. But we're not entirely there yet. And you also have to look at the total size of the economy. Our economy has grown tremendously since 1950. We have more money.
We're going to reinvent the phone.
We have more assets. We have more people. The GDP is around 8 times what it was in 1950. That's why when economists talk about the debt, they prefer to use this number, the debt to GDP ratio. It takes the total amount of public debt and shows it as a percentage of how big it is relative to the size of the total economy. So now if we go back to that scary, terrifying chart of the debt, instead show the debt as a percentage of the total economy, well, it's a different story. The US number right now is about 103%. And if you're wondering, is that number too high? Well, there's no simple answer. Some economists say 85% is too high. Some say 100, some say even higher. But regardless of what you think the number should be, economists agree. Those big scary numbers people throw around,
$1,090 billion.
It's $544 billion.
Hundreds of billions.
ignore them. These are the numbers you should be looking at.